Question. Kim, could you elaborate more on Jesus' quote, "Do not cast your pearls before swine"? I've heard many interpretations of this. Well, I would say there are two main ways to interpret it. They're both valid, they're both useful. So one could be to talk about knowledge, insight, your awareness, for example, of the spiritual path or the spiritual side to life. And what Jesus was saying was that you need to recognize that there are some people that are not open to what you are open to. So you see Jesus, for example, the scribes and Pharisees. He did interact with them, he did challenge them, but in the end, did he convince any of them? No, because they were not open. So Jesus had a higher understanding of the spiritual side of life. The Pharisees were clinging to their doctrines and dogmas and their interpretations of them. And so you could say that you need to be sensitive to where people are at, and you don't. It's not that you can't share things with people, but you don't do it with the intent that you're going to convince them. Certainly not convince them right there on the spot. Because there are some people that you can't convince. Now, I'm not thereby saying that you should necessarily go around judging other people before you speak to them. Because what I found in myself is that when I'm neutral about it, I just say things and I leave it up to people what they do with it, whether they accept it or not. Because I feel that if I said something, even if they don't accept it, it can be a seed that's planted in their mind, and maybe after a while it'll, stir up some kind of thought process in them that will help them see something they don't see now. But if I feel that people have become very defensive and rejecting of what I'm saying, then I just pull back and I don't insist on that I have to convince them. I just say, okay, they're not open, so I move on, and hopefully there are other people I can help. So this could be one, where Jesus was basically saying, he gave the parable of the sower, where the sower is spreading the seeds, and some fall on fertile ground and they sprout, and some fall on barren ground. And so you can look at yourself as the sower. You are sharing your ideas, your insights, but some people are not open to it, so then you don't insist. And this brings up the second way to interpret the quote, which is your spiritual light, your energy. So, as I explained in several of my videos, including my video about how the world was created, everything is created from energy. And everything in the material world is created and sustained because there's a constant flow of energy that comes from the spiritual realm. And in your personal mind, that energy comes from your spiritual self and it flows into your mind. And that's what allows you to be conscious and to think and to feel and even act physically. So you can look at it that any interaction you have with other people, there's an energy aspect of it. So when you are talking to other people, for example, through your attention, you're giving them some energy, some of your psychic energy. And again, there's nothing wrong with that in itself. But you could interpret Jesus' quote to mean that your spiritual light is your pearls. And if you cast them before swine, meaning people who are not open, they will misuse it. And it could be that they'll reject it. But there are also some other people who will try to use it against you. So you see, for example, that there are some people that just love to argue. And they love to pull other people into these arguments. I have met several people in my life who they would, on a regular basis, they would start an argument with me. And when I was much younger, I walked right into it, fell right into the trap, because they would accuse me of something and I would defend myself. And what I noticed at a certain point was that there are some of these people, they'll start an argument, it'll be going on for a while, and then all of a sudden, okay, they'll just drop it and start talking about something else. Or they'll walk away. And at first I was baffled by this. I thought, what? Why? There was no resolution here. It was not like they agreed with me or disagreed with me or I agreed with them. We weren't getting anywhere. But all of a sudden, they walked away. And at one point I realized that the reason they started the argument was they wanted some energy from me. And when I argued with them, I gave them some of my mental and emotional energy. And they absorbed that energy, and at some point they had enough. They were full. It's like you're eating a granola bar and you feel full. So now there was no point in arguing anymore. And so the way you can explain that is, as I actually explained in several videos, that we all have this stream of energy from our higher selves, our spiritual selves. And what we do with it depends on Jesus's parable about the talents. 3 servants are given different numbers of talents. The master goes away, he comes back and asks what they've done with the talents. And 2 servants had multiplied, 1 had buried it in the ground. So what that means is that you're receiving this energy from your higher self. And when you use it to basically be creative, help other people, do something positive, something that raises the whole, you're multiplying the talents, therefore you will receive more energy from your higher presence. If you use it for selfish purposes that actually harms other people, the stream of energy will be reduced. And that means there are some people, they have reduced the stream of energy coming from the higher selves to the point where it just keeps them conscious. So in order to receive more energy so they can actually do something, they have to steal it from other people. And one of the ways they steal it is, for example, to get people into arguments. There are other ways, of course, but to get you into an argument. And so what Jesus was really saying is, your pearl is your spiritual light. And if you are squandering the light on arguing with other people, for example, or trying to prove yourself right or prove them wrong or this or that, you're casting your pearls before swine, because this will not help them in any way. It won't help them grow. It'll help them survive and do something, but they're not transcending themselves. They're not getting anywhere. It's not like an investment that pays off. It's just going to be lost. They're just going to squander it. And so Jesus also has this parable where he talks about the pearl of great price. And again, this can be interpreted in different ways. One of them is that the pearl of great price is the Christ consciousness, the one mind that is beyond the outer mind, the dualistic, separate mind. But it can also be seen as spiritual light. And when you realize that your spiritual light is really what drives your spiritual growth, the amount of light you get from your higher self, the more light you have, the more you raise your consciousness, then you see that this is the pearl of great price. And all of a sudden, all other things in your life are put into a different perspective. Does it help me increase my light, or does it actually squander my light? And therefore, as Jesus said, you are selling all of your other possessions to buy that one pearl of great price, because the light is more important to you, or the Christ consciousness is more important to you than anything else. For example, you could say the Christ consciousness is about, this is something I realized at one point, that the Christ consciousness is about experiencing a higher reality. And it's not about being right in this world. I met people who actually think that if you have the Christ consciousness, you're always right. And you can always prove other people wrong if they don't agree with you. But that's not what the Christ consciousness is about. And that's why you can realize that if you're engaging in these fruitless arguments with other people that aren't open-minded, so you can't convince them anyway, this is also casting your pearls before swine. So I would say these are the main 2 interpretations. You could probably come up with more, but I think this is what Jesus really meant with it. Be careful. In other words, you could say that what he was saying is that you have to evaluate your interactions with other people. Do they help you multiply your light and raise the light up so you get more? Or do they help you or cause you to squander your light. So you can build a positive energetic spiral with people, or you can build a negative energetic spiral. And don't engage in the negative, because it's casting your pearls before swine.